Christmas time is here once again, and for this year's Christmas special I've got a pretty little acoustic fingerstyle arrangement of the festive classic In the Bleak Midwinter. This is, I think, one of the most beautiful Christmassy tunes, and I've tried to keep my arrangement quite simple, so if you've got limited experience with fingerstyle guitar, I hope it's something that you find approachable, and if you are into playing in this kind of style, I hope it's something that you can pick up quite quickly and have some fun with over the festive period. So let's get started. I'm going to play through my little arrangement, and I thought since it's Christmas I'm going to make the tab for this one available completely free up on my Patreon page, so there'll be a link to that underneath this video if you're interested. Let's go. So there we go, and I should say that my version is fairly heavily indebted to the great John Fahey. Originally I was going to do a straight cover, but in the end I changed a few things, added a few bits, so it's got some original elements in there as well. And I listened to quite a lot of John Fahey at this time of year. He seems to have made a lot of Christmas music. I think I've got at least 3 or 4 of his Christmas albums, which are fantastic, highly recommended. And I suppose he's kind of the Michael Bublé of alternative folk guitar. Anyway, let's get on with this, and I'll start breaking down what's going on with this tune. I'm doing this one in the key of C, and that is the key of the John Fahey version as well. It does seem to fall quite naturally in this key, and that's an important consideration when you're putting together an arrangement like this. It can be quite challenging because you need to have the melody and you also need to suggest the chords at the same time. So certain chord shapes, certain keys are going to work better than others when you're putting together an arrangement. And generally you're going to want the melody to be the highest note. So here I'm playing the melody. Mainly on the top couple of strings. There's one note down on the 3rd string as well. And then you've got room to add in some chords underneath that. The priority here is the melody, but then after that I think probably the bass notes, and then if you can maybe get some other notes from the chords in there as well. But I think this would stand up fairly well if you just had the melody and then maybe a bass note underneath it. So something like this would work quite well, I think. So you can kind of get a real sense of the harmony as well, just having that bass note and then a melody note on top. But what I'm doing, I'm actually holding down some chord shapes and throwing in some other notes as well. So let me break down what I'm doing phrase by phrase. So the opening phrase was this. So you can hear that you've got the melody. The chords underlying that melody are just C going to A minor. So C is our home chord, that's the 1 chord. A minor is the 6th chord in the key of C major. And I'm playing this in kind of a folky fingerstyle way, and my thumb is playing alternating bass notes more or less throughout this piece. So if you hold down a C chord, my thumb is just doing this. Just rocking back and forth between the 5th string and the 4th string. And it's really important with this piece, just to keep your thumb moving. That's what you're holding down the rhythm and establishing the bass notes and the harmony of this piece. So that thumb is always going to be steady, and then we're going to throw the melody on top of that. So if I put in the melody, you can hear that thumb is alternating, and then you've got the melody on top. So let's just try and get that melody in there. So if we hold down a C major chord, you actually need to lift up your first finger because we're playing the melody on the top string here. So got the open top string and then this F note and playing this G with the pinky. So and then together with the bass. Little bit tricky, or very tricky if you've not done this kind of thing before. So you just need to take it really slowly and just really try and get everything synchronized and coordinated. But just, and some of the melody notes are going to be played at the same time as the thumb. Some of them are going to fall in between the thumb strokes, so you've got to kind of watch out for that. So to start with, we're kind of pinching a thumb and finger together, and it's just a thumb on its own, melody note on its own, and then two pinches. So that's how you could break down that phrase, which you might well have to do in the beginning. So that's kind of step one. And then I'm actually throwing in some open third string as well, just to kind of fill out the sound and give it a bit more movement. So the entire kind of first bar would sound like this. That extra open third string in there. And I should mention your picking hand technique here. So you must play the bass notes with your thumb. I think that's kind of non-negotiable. But as to how you play the melody notes, you've kind of got options here. I mean, some fingerstyle players just use thumb and one finger. Other players use thumb and two fingers. And what I recommend as a good starting point is actually to use three fingers on your picking hand, so first, second and third fingers, and allocate them to individual strings. So I've actually got my first finger playing notes on the third string, my middle finger playing notes on the second string, and my ring finger playing notes on the top string. Then the thumb is covering the bass strings. That's kind of a good starting point with fingerstyle stuff. Not everybody does it that way. I don't always do it that way, but I think for this piece that's generally what I'm doing. So you can see that my thumb is just rocking back and forth. I've got my ring finger playing the notes on the top string, and my index finger is actually playing those open third strings. So that's what's going on in the first bar in quite a lot of detail, but I thought it was worth doing that for those of you who are fingerstyle beginners. But I will try and move a bit more quickly now, and if I go too fast, remember you have got the tab to refer to. So next we've got this. We're moving to an A minor chord, just holding down that shape, and you need to use your pinky to play the melody, this D note, and then lifting it up to play the C. So the melody, the bass is still just the thumb rocking back and forth between the fifth and the fourth strings. There's a bit of the third string in there as well, and if I put all of that together, and then we're moving to F. So important here, I think, to play the F with the thumb over the top, and this can be quite a problem for some players. It is a little bit awkward to do that, but it's such a big part of this kind of style, for fingerstyle guitar, for kind of folky stuff, because it frees up an extra finger and it allows you to do things which you can't really do if you're playing your F in other ways, like the kind of conventional bar chord shape. So I do urge you to have a go at this thumb over the top thing. It's a really worthwhile thing to be able to do. I certainly struggled with it in the beginning. I kind of forced myself to use that thumb. Eventually I got more comfortable with it, and it opened up so many more tunes, being able to use that technique. So it's do have a go, even if you initially struggle with it. Here I'm kind of holding down an F shape like this. I've got my thumb wrapped out around the top. I've got this kind of F triad, so third fret on the fourth string, and then 2 and then 1. That's our basic F chord. I've got my little finger down at the 3rd fret on the 2nd string, so it's actually an F6 kind of a sound, and we're doing this. So the thumb is going from the 6th string to the 4th string this time, and then the melody is that. So we've got the 2nd string, open top string, and the 2nd string, and then the 3rd string. Really pretty. Then we're going to G. It's kind of a G7 sound here. So what I'm doing is this. I've got the 3rd fret on the 6th string, got the 3rd fret on the 4th string, and then the 3rd fret on the 2nd string. So that's giving you a G7 sound. This F note here, that's the flat 7. So thumb is just going back and forth between the 6th and 4th strings, and the melody note is on the 2nd string. So little pause, then we go round again with a little bit of a variation at the end of the phrase. So it starts off exactly the same way, then it goes to the F, changes more quickly to the G7, and then resolves to the C. So that's our opening section. Next we've got a little B section, or bridge I suppose you could call it, and that starts like this. So here I decided to move away from these open kind of cowboy chord shapes, come a little bit higher up the neck, and I started with this. So this is based on kind of an F sound. This is the 4 chord, but I'm holding down this little triad shape. So 7 on the D, 5 on the G, and 6 on the B. I've got the 3rd in the bass. I've got the open 5th string, so it's kind of an inversion of an F chord, if you like. So the thumb is just doing this, just going between the 5th and the 4th strings, and the melody is that. So we've got the 2nd string, an open top string. Now I like this because you've got that nice dissonant minor 2nd interval on the top 2 strings. Then I'm moving to this chord shape. So another way of playing an F chord, really. We've got 8 on the 5th string, then 10, open 3rd string, and 10 on the 2nd string. I'm just kind of playing that. So the thumb is just going from 5 to 4, and the melody note is on the 2nd string. Then I'm going to, this is an A minor triad, the 7 on the D, and 5 and 5, and again with the open 5th string. So far in this little bridge section. Then I'm coming back into the open position, and I've got this. So this is a C chord. So the melody is on top there. Then going to F. It's in fact that F6 because I've got my pinky down there, and then I'm lifting it up. And then to this G7, same as before. And then we're back to the opening phrase. And that's really the essence of it. That's the first page in my tab in my sheet music. I do then play the whole thing again, and I play it more or less the same way, but I think I threw in a couple of little variations which I will take you through now. So it started off in exactly the same way. So little variation there, so a little kind of walk up to take us back to the C chord again. So we're on the G7 chord here. There I'm playing the open 5th string and open top string, and then the 2nd fret and the 1st fret on those same 2 strings, which leads us nicely back to the C again. So there, I think, just going into that bridge section the second time, I just threw in a C7 chord, so that kind of classic secondary dominant leading you to the 4 chord. So you've just got a C chord, and I'm just putting down my little finger into the bridge. And here's another little variation that I threw in. So I just broke away from that alternating thumb just momentarily, and I was just playing some triads. So a C triad, another C triad in a different inversion, and then this, I suppose this is like a D minor triad, but it's giving you that F6 sound to an F triad. So, and then back to that G7, and then the final little phrase. Very end there, just putting my pinky down for that C sus4 sound, and then strumming the C chord to end. There we are. As I've said, if you do play fingerstyle guitar, there's nothing too tricky going on there. If you've never played in this style before, then it might take you a little bit of time to get this together, but you can always simplify and leave out some of those little embellishments and just play it in a very straight way. As I've already shown, it works really well just playing the melody and then getting some bass notes in there as well. But it will take a little bit of practice. There's no getting around the fact that when you're playing in this kind of style, you're quite exposed. It's quite unforgiving. You know, if you make a little mistake, if you muffle a melody note or something, it's actually quite noticeable. You know, I'm not the most precise player in this kind of style, but I do my best to keep things fairly clean. You want the melody to come through nice and strongly. So you will want to pay attention to your technique in both hands, and in particular for me in the fretting hand. You need to make sure that you're really accurate with your fretting, that you're not kind of being lazy and muffling open strings. You want all of those melody notes to come through nice and cleanly. Let me briefly go through the gear that I'm using today. Guitar is my Martin 0015M. It's all mahogany acoustic. This is kind of my go-to acoustic most of the time, mainly because it's so comfortable. This kind of body size and shape is very comfortable. You just kind of want to grab it and noodle around on it. And as is customary with me, the strings are quite old, a little bit dull sounding, which I do quite like. Recording it today with this microphone down here, which is a Neumann KM184 small diaphragm condenser mic, which I often use when I'm recording acoustic guitars. It does work really well with acoustics. And I think importantly in this kind of situation where it's a video, it's not too obtrusive. It's quite a small mic, so it's not going to get in the way too much visually. So there we have it. I hope some of you are going to enjoy getting this one together over the festive period. And remember, there is free tab available over on the Patreon page. And since this is probably going to be my last video of the year, I should take this opportunity to thank all of you for watching and for supporting this channel over the past year. In particular, thanks to everyone over on the Patreon page, people who've bought my courses, people who've come to my in-person workshops. All of that support is massively appreciated. So yeah, hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, and I will see you in the new year.